I'm Ray Gong, and this is my friend Bud Orr.
We're twins. You ever see the movie Twins?
We're twins.
Yeah,
exactly. We are twins.
We are twins.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, but which leaves me as Danny DeVito. And I think he described himself at the bottom of the dregs of the barrel.
Oh, no.
But I reform at the end, so it's all good.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
So when did you guys first meet?
I forget the exact dates, but somewhere around
October 88.
Was it 88? Well, no, I called you earlier than that.
Oh,
but I didn't meet
87.
you. Yeah.
When do you think you first traveled to California to check out paintball fields, Ray?
Oh, that was somewhere around 87. It was shortly after the article came out from APG magazine. Russell wrote an article about, he met this guy, Bud Orr, and he makes paintball guns out of his garage.
That's like November, December 1987 when Bud's holding that sniper.
That's probably it. Yeah,
We actually done the interview. Well, it takes 4 months to get thing to get out. So.
Yeah. Okay, so after the article came out, November, December 86 or 87 in APG, you saw the article and what were your thoughts? Like, how did that tie into what you were doing at the time?
Well, specifically, they mentioned Bud makes guns out of his garage, and he made a 50 caliber version. And at the time, I was just starting to look into the lawsuit about getting paintball legalized in the state of New Jersey. At the time, it wasn't legal based on the fact that the state attorney general said that you couldn't shoot a firearm at another person. It would be second-degree assault and battery, and you're going to go to jail. So I asked my lawyer about it, and he says, well, you don't want to be the test case because you'll be behind bars and you probably won't like that. Eventually, we got a ruling that said exactly that the paintball guns are firearms, and that's when we challenged them in court. And in looking at the definitions of why a paintball gun was a firearm, one of them was that it used a cartridge, and at the time we were using 12-gram cartridges, and so we started using the term powerlets to get around the cartridge definition. Another definition for a firearm is that, like a BB gun, it's spring activated, but it fires a projectile under, I think it was 3/8 of an inch, and paintball 6.68. I said, I think we're good on that. But then we also knew they were complaining about the paintball gun being an explosive device because it fired something over 60 caliber. So we said, wait, greater than 60. Well, Tippmann already had the SMG 60, so he said 60, which isn't greater than 60, but then, hey, there's a 50 caliber paintball gun. I'll play it safe and maybe I'll go with the 50. And I remember there was a 50 caliber revolver at the time. So I figured there'd be paintball supply, and I said, okay, that might be the way to go to get paintball legalized.
So why didn't you just bring the Crossman revolver as the test subject in the court?
I could have, but I was already looking at the technology, and I mean, I started playing. Yeah, I started playing with the original Splatmaster and getting hit with, oil-based paint and scrubbing that stuff off. I was one of the original players up at Jerry Braun's field, Survival New York. And it was when they had the huge fields, and you fired 10 paintballs maybe in a whole day. But the technology was already increasing, and I'm not sure about the timing, but I was starting to see guys coming out with constant and stuff.
So you had been playing for a few years, and you really wanted to get some kind of field going in Jersey.
Right.
So when had you seen Frontline magazines, or was APG the first you saw?
No, Frontline magazine was one of the first ones.
So you were starting to get kind of serious about it in the fall to winter of 1987. You saw the picture of Bud, and you started planning a trip to California. And did you call up APG? How did you get in contact with people in the Southern California area?
I originally talked to Jerry Braun. I was trying to see if he can get a paintball field into New Jersey, but then he said no because of the laws. And then so I stopped doing that, and that's when I started investigating it on my own. And that's when I saw Frontline magazine and APG magazine, and started thinking seriously about getting paintball legalized in the state. But what triggered it was, I'm pretty sure, that magazine article that said, oh, I can get a 50 caliber paintball gun. I got the experts. And I also wanted to come out here when I talked to Russell Maynard, he said he could meet me up with some people in SC Village and get some training on what it takes to become running a field. So I actually came out to SC Village, and one little story that came out, I can't remember the name of the first field manager that trained me.
Do you remember, Bud?
He was Japanese. I think it was Ken
Yeah,
Shitani or something. Not sure.
Sentani or
But
Yeah, I think I've seen that name printed before.
he actually took me out to the field, and they gave me a constant air gun. I was all excited to get, and all I know is we opened, the whistle blew, I walked out, and I didn't even walk 10 feet, and some paintball comes from way up in some hill and hits me and breaks.
First
And he
game of the
looks
day.
at me and he goes, "Ray, I see you're a really good player." And I didn't even know it hit me. So, but yeah, I got good training that, and I was also interested in seeing SC Village because they had this first speedball field that Bud helped build, and I had never seen a speedball field because I'm used to 40-acre play fields in the woods. So that whole concept kind of blew my mind that you would run to a center flag and the whole game's over in 10 minutes when I'm playing
Did
our
they have
game.
the field with the pond, the speedball field with the pond in the center at the
Yeah,
time? or
that was the first one they built.
the colorful one?
I don't remember the exact details, but that was the first speedball field I had ever seen. And I was just impressed with the scope and the size of SC Village and how well it was run. So I got a whole bunch of things done at the same time. I met Russell Maynard, being the magazine, the editor of the magazine. He introduced me to Jessica Sparks because I needed a lawyer that knew something
Oh,
with
so
paint
Jessica
back.
was actually your lawyer
She
on
was
that
one
case?
of she was one of the witnesses in New Jersey. So I had 3 witnesses for the trial in New Jersey.
She was
One
seen
was
as
Russell.
like a very reliable witness because of her law degree.
Not only that, but she was also president of IPPA.
IPPA, yeah.
So she was the paintball expert along with Russell. And then Bud was the paintball gun expert.
Engineer.
Yeah. So that's why we had him come out for that. And it turned out, a whole lot of it turned on when they were doing the questioning, and they were saying the paintball gun uses the cartridge, and that's what makes it illegal. And Bud actually held up a book we had, which I think was Hops number 9, everything you need to know about firearms. And he opened up the page to what a cartridge really is in firearms terms, which is case, primer, bullet, and all that. And Judge agreed with us. 12-gram cartridge or power lead has nothing to do with a real firearm cartridge.
Yeah. So, Ray, tell me a little bit about how it actually came, how the judge actually asked you guys to demonstrate the 50 caliber sniper. And then, Bud, can you tell me a little bit about how you ended up being the one that actually shot Russell?
All right, what happened during the trial, the morning we just got into the basics and background about the trial, but then the judge specifically said I wanted to see a paintball gun being fired. And so we actually took a recess, and from the courthouse we went to the state police training facility.
It looks like you're in a shooting range.
It was a shooting range. So we were actually on the Monmouth County Police firing range. And when we got there, the first thing they did is they put a piece of cardboard up on a stand, and they shot it with a 50 caliber paintball. Actually, Bud's 50 caliber paintball sniper, and they actually shot a piece of like foam board, and you see the paint splat hit and
Like
just
styrofoam?
oozed out.
Is that the styrofoam, or was the styrofoam?
Styrofoam.
after?
No, that was just a piece of like styrofoam board. So I wasn't on an easel. But then the judge says, I want something a little bit more realistic. So then they brought out a styrofoam head, and they put it on a stand. They shot the styrofoam head, and of course the styrofoam head falls off the stand. The judge went up and picked it up and stuck his finger in the hole that the 50 caliber paintball left. And I was like thinking to myself, I think that might not be good. But then the judge actually said, well, I'd actually prefer to see somebody get hit with a paintball gun and a paintball. So at that point, all the policemen that were there said, oh no, we won't fire a firearm at a person. And that's when Russell said, well, I'll volunteer to be the person to be shot. but none of the policemen that were there would shoot him. So of course Bud raised his hand.
I volunteered.
I'll volunteer to shoot him. And that's what happened. So you could tell the story there.
Tell us a little bit about that. You had probably shot Russell plenty of times prior to that, right?
Oh yeah. Russell and I exchanged quite a bit of paintball. And Jessica also.
Jessica also, yeah.
Jessica was known as a crotch shooter.
Yeah.
You know, I
You had to
think
wear your cup when you were playing against her.
every time. You know, I didn't play against her.
Same team.
So, yeah, no, because I knew where I was going to get hit. Anyway, you know, Russell, you know, he wanted me to shoot him. You know, so I said, yeah, I'll be glad to. You know, so I shot him and it bounced off because it was the plastic. You know, we had a garbage can piece of plastic on it. So I hit him and so I kept getting closer and closer, and so finally at one point I shot him right in the sternum and it broke, you know. And Ray's sitting there looking at it and it looked like blood running down. And
blood red, of course.
Oh, blood red. Paintball, you know, that's all he had back then. So, and you know, it went on from that, and Ray probably fill you in on better than that.
Ray, you were probably, you know, kind of...
He was happy.
Well, no.
Well, at first the paintballs weren't even breaking because we were just laughing just because it was a plastic garbage liner that
It just seemed probably so silly to everyone there that you guys are just shooting this guy over and over. Paintballs aren't even breaking.
See that. Well, that's what happened from the plastic and the fact that 50 caliber paintballs are so hard. They just kept scooting off them, and of course Bud just kept getting closer and closer and shooting them multiple times until that one finally broke.
Kilborn, he loved the trash can thing, so he made jerseys out of trash can field, so they bounce.
That's why you're not allowed to use plastic and or ghillie suits in paintball because they're good cheating factors. But so after the range, we went back and Russell was testifying. That's when I was saying he's sitting there with his white shirt and tie, and you could see the red paintball still oozing off his shirt. And Bud testified, and then several days later, the judge came back with the ruling that paintball guns aren't firearms.
I think we took the trash can bag off, and I shot his shirt.
No, I think he's wearing the liner.
No, I think he's wearing the liner the entire time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to watch. The footage is...
There's a short version of the video on YouTube, and there's the long version. You can actually count how many times he got shot. So yeah, it took quite a while before.
Yeah, and so you actually told me, you said that the judge just said at the end, like, hey, you know, everything else is just kind of like baloney, and the one thing that really matters is that exactly what Bud said, right? There's no combustion.
Yeah, the whole thing turned on the fact that in every definition there was a term internal combustion, and so as long as you stick internal combustion as kind of like the adjective, none of those clauses, whether the cartridge or the size.
So possibly the Tippmann C3 wouldn't be allowed in New Jersey.
Never know. New Jersey was the last state in the U.S. to legalize paintball. I couldn't believe the fact that, I don't know, around a dozen foreign countries were already playing paintball, and I'm sitting there going, I can't play paintball in New Jersey. And I was even nervous that they already knew I have paintball guns. Maybe they'll come and arrest me, you know, that because I own a paintball gun and they're not registered because they don't have serial numbers on them. So yeah, that was a concern that you know, they might come breaking down my house.
So this was the final ruling in 87 or 88?
No, that was 1988.
88.
Okay, I think it was May of 88.
Bud would have been, you know, with Bud holding the sniper, would have been late winter of 87, and then you traveled to California in 1988, met with Bud, went to SC Village. Did you go to any other fields while you were here?
No, that was the main. Oh, no, I take it back. These guys took me out to a field in Malibu. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
All I remember, there was a field. It had a facade and it had birds of paradise, and it was a really beautiful field. And
you would remember that.
Rick Schroeder was playing that day. We couldn't call him Ricky because he was too big to be called Ricky, but we were playing against him, and I was playing with a guy. Bear, was it?
Yeah.
Bear. And I was standing next to him, and Bear gets up and shoots Ricky Schroeder. And then Rick wiped. And Bear's going, I saw you wipe. And I'm just standing there. So
I know nothing.
Bear grabs me and he goes, he cheated. Go get him, Ray. And I'm running after him all day, trying to catch him. And Rick Schroeder is young back then. He was fast. I never saw him the rest of the day. But that was one of the nicest fields I ever saw in Malibu, London. And then they took me out to some nice place to eat. That was beautiful out in Malibu. So I'm sad that field is gone. But, well, I can tell you, things got crazy. After we got the ruling, paintball gun was legalized, we were all excited. That just started my problems because I already owned 132 acres in a town called Marlboro that I thought I could build the paintball field on. And because one of the uses was recreational facilities. So I thought it was perfectly zoned. But it turned out the Monmouth County prosecutor came out just before the ruling and said that, hey, they may win this case, so you might want to do something about preventing paintball because it's so dangerous.
Man, they just like try to sabotage you every
They
single
did.
way.
They actually spot zoned my property. They removed the recreational facility use. So then instead of being able to play paintball, I had to get a variance basically to get in, and got to the township meetings. And it turned out it was a little strange because Marlboro is predominantly Jewish. And that's about the time the field opened up, Wolf's Lair. And they advertised in a magazine, Soldier of Fortune or something, to come out and play paintball. And so I get to the courtroom, well, not the courtroom, but the county hearing room, and it's packed with people, and they're Jewish, some of them with the wall. They thought we were going to be opening a neo-Nazi training camp. And while I was testifying, some people actually got up, you're a neo-Nazi, fascist, racist skinhead. And I'm like looking at them going, well, I got hair.
Let's see.
I don't think I'm German.
No, I don't think so.
And I'm like, if you threw Japanese or something in there, and I'm Chinese, you might have got away with it. But what happened
my twin brother, he can't,
But as they said, they turned me down. And then I went, appealed it, and then I won. That's how we finally opened the first field in Marlboro. But only for a short period, because about a year later, they got it overturned by another judge. And then we had to go find a new facility. And that's when I opened the field in Six Flags, next to Six Flags.
Okay, so you only had 2 locations over the run?
Actually, I had 3. Back when Bud first started growing, he wanted me to be War Games Product East. And as a matter of fact, there were some ads in APG magazine, War Games Product West, War Games Products East, and I was supposed to get more into retail. And just to show you how smart I am, I said, Bud, I don't know nothing about retail. I don't do retail. I just want to run the field. I'm going to make a whole lot of money making field. You're wasting your time getting into retail. Well, shows you how much I learned. And actually, that ties into another story with Gino. Gino, I actually met him when a lot of people were buying stuff from Gino out of the back of his pizza parlor in New Jersey. And so we met, and he said, hey, Ray, I think I'm getting into the paintball business. Do you care? And I said, what do I know about, retail? Do all you want. And then he grows into like the biggest paintball wholesaler, retailer. And I'm like, wow. So they did well. I can't complain. I did okay, but I worked my butt off for the field.
You had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had fun, but I could have been richer if I had just listened to him and did more and actually did the retail, because I had all the inside at that point. Because if I had just stuck with War Game Products East and actually did retail wholesale, I could have owned it before Gino. That's the story I like to tell Gino anyway. I could have been where you are.
I think the more memorable story is legalization of paintball in New Jersey. And that's one thing that probably came up over and over in other states that were fearing that paintball would become, some kind of laws would be written against it. They probably brought up the ruling in that you guys went through, and probably set a precedent.
Well, actually, I'm in the law books twice, as far as I know, in New Jersey. One is the fact that paintball guns are not firearms. And then secondly, it turns out that the releases that you have, the waivers you have to sign, they actually are binding in not only New Jersey, but a whole lot of other states. Matter of fact, I think it's binding just about everywhere now. That even when you go to any amusement park now, they say you buy the ticket and it says you know, if you fall off the ride, too bad, as long as it's not negligent.
Is that because somebody sued you and you had them sign a waiver, and the waiver actually held up?
Yeah, I had a few lawsuits where people got injured, specifically one where there's a bachelor party and one of the members of their own bachelor party, the guy took his mask off and his buddy shot him in the eye, and it ruined his, didn't take out his eyesight, but it ruined it. And as a result of that incident, took it to court, appealed it, and it went up. So the waiver was binding, so that's why waivers are binding in most states, as far as I know now.
Gotcha. Awesome. Those are great stories, Ray. When did you end up selling Top Gun?
In 2004, I was planning on retiring.
2004.
Right. So I had come out to California to one of the NPPL events out in Huntington Beach. Beautiful February. I went back to New Jersey, and as I got to the airport, my car is under 2 feet of snow, and I'm like, that wasn't so fun. So I came back out a second time, and I told him about the snow, and he goes, well, why don't you move out to California? And I'm like, nah, I'm born and raised in New Jersey. I'll probably die in New Jersey. I go back to New Jersey, and there's another 2 feet of snow in my car. So I said, you know what? California doesn't sound like such a bad deal.
I think Wanda had a little bit to do with that.
Well, I was the one shoveling all the snow, so I was like, So actually, I was surprised. My wife is from New York City, so I convinced her to move out to California. But we saw Bud's house, and fortunately, I saw a house in a development nearby Bud's house, designed by the same architect, so I was able to get a house actually very similar. It's actually almost the identical floor plan to Bud's, so we did all right. We moved out to California at the peak time, so I'm happy with that move. But pretty much retired from paintball. Haven't been doing much and keeping up, so I'm actually happy to see somebody doing the DNA. Every now and then I get on Google myself and paintball just to see what's happening. So it's good to see somebody's tracking what's happening.
He's into shooting real guns.
Yeah.
He's a mad
real
shooter.
guns is my passion right now.
So you did put all of the film, all the footage from the actual court case on YouTube, and you have several other videos on YouTube about your history at Top Gun.
Yeah,
so if people want to actually check out those videos, they can, we'll put a link up under this, and they can check those out.
Right.
And you said that was actual footage that was recorded and given to you recorded by the court and given to you by your lawyer.
Yes.
So that's really cool.
Yeah,
it's awesome
really
that you
nice
put that
video.
up. Thanks for doing a video with me.
No, not a problem. I'm glad someone's doing so. Now I may reconsider. Both of us still have a whole lot of paintball gear that it's just cluttering up my garage. Maybe I'll see about bringing some of it out to you to
bring it all to Bud.
Let some people see, how the business evolved. I was just telling somebody earlier, I had met Bud, and Bud actually introduced me to Tom Kay at one point, and I think it was some paintball game out in the Pennsylvania area or something, and we're sitting at a table eating dinner, and these two guys are talking, designing paintball guns. I think the first electric paintball guns. And I'm an engineer, but I'm not a paintball gun manufacturer. And I'm sitting there, I'm here, Bud's here, Tom's here, and they're writing on the napkins all these new designs. And I was just, what are they talking about? It was just so beyond me. I wish I had kept those napkins, because those are probably the first designs of like the new electronic guns. And even then I was having second thoughts. I think Tom was also talking about nitrogen, and I was like, and I was into scuba diving at one point, and I was like, and they're talking 3,000 in this tiny little bottle next to your face, and they take like I don't know how long to fill in a water bath at the scuba shop, and we're filling them in like 20 seconds. Somebody's gonna get blown up, and as far as I know, no one's seriously gotten injured from a paint. There have been a few instances where they burst, but I'm like, I was so worried that 3,000 and 4,500 and quick fills. You can feel how hot those tanks get, but Bud was on the safety standards for paintball, so he actually invested a lot of his time back then setting up standards.
Yeah, actually, we were just talking to Gio about that.
That was serious stuff going on, because I went a few times to about field safety rules and stuff. But while I was there, we were talking about all the manufacturing aspects, and I remember all the debates we were having, how crazy it was getting. You know, we're going to allow 13 balls per second, you know, or 20 balls per second. And I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine when you were, you know, back at Survival New York playing with a nail spot or a Splatmaster.
I had 4 tubes of paint, I think, on my first game.
Which
I
you
think I
probably
came
spent
back with all
$1
3 because I couldn't even find the other players on the other. I remember I actually didn't like the game the first time I went because the field is so big, I couldn't find my way. So, and I'm not an outdoors person, so I thought it would be smart. Well, it's not so woodsy. I'll follow the stream. And I almost lost my shoe a couple of times in the mud, you know, sticking in. I'm like, this isn't fun. I can't find the other people. And I hear the horn blow, the game's over, and I never even shot my paintball gun, you know. I was like, that really sucks. And of course, by the end of the day, I did get hit with that oil-based paint, and that wasn't fun cleaning yourself with turpentine, you know. If anybody had a match, the woods would have went up in a second. So that brings back some interesting memories.
Awesome. Cool.
So,
great memories, Ray. Thanks for all the input, Bud. Cool.
Okay. Well,
At least with this
enjoy
video,
talking
we'll make
to
Bud
you.
do a couple more now.
All right.
Oh, what?
They're going to make you chat.